And that is Drew Brown from the Philadelphia Water Department. Drew has been manager of public education programs for the City of Philadelphia Water Department since 1985. He oversaw the development of the historic Fairmount Waterworks into the department's interpretive center. He implemented programs for adults and children, and he spearheaded the consolidation of the department's archives. Drew is a licensed professional engineer with technical expertise in sewage treatment, stormwater management, and water pollution prevention. So Drew, over to you.
Thank you, Matt. Just by way of introduction of the department, we are a water, wastewater, and stormwater utility. We are owned and operated by the City of Philadelphia, and we serve about 1.8 million people in the city and its near suburbs. Now, I'm going to talk today about targeting messages to the audiences. And the first step here is to craft the message that you want to get across. And I really suggest that the messages need to be somewhat narrow. The broader the message, the broader the audience, and in general, your message needs to be narrow so that you can have a successful educational effort around it. So know what you want to say and keep it brief and keep it focused. Now, we can immediately look at some ways of targeting audiences. These are somewhat out of order. I would say the number one way that we target is by customer type. That's the most common, that being residential versus commercial versus industrial customers. Next would be by age group, then by geography, and finally by interest groups. And partnerships are not a way that we target our audiences, but we do use partnerships to reach most of our audiences, whether it's targeted or not. And the basis for this targeting of your audiences are that not all messages are for everyone in town. So we look at the general public and we ask ourselves, whose behavior do we want to change with this message? Who is it we're trying to reach? And then usually our first cut into segments is by the customer class. Age groups are often a natural way to segment the audience, and children are certainly a target audience for many of our educational efforts. One thing we discovered early on was that reaching kids through summer day camps and other summer programs was an effective way, or perhaps the most effective way of reaching children. And that's, I think, because the camp leaders are eager for programs and activities. And there's no rigid curriculum to meet like the teachers have to do in school. So we do work with schools, but our initial efforts were with the summer programs. We had great success with them. Now, as far as school programs are concerned, we do look at the school curriculum, and we fashion our programs to the messages or learning objectives that we want to meet, as well as to the curriculum. So we really try to make things fit the curriculum so that teachers are not reluctant to try to make them fit. There's a lot of pressure with testing, and I'm sure in your community as well, so that the teachers are really constrained, and so we really have to make our school programs fit the curriculum. Here's a couple of titles that we use at our educational center, the Fairmount Waterworks Interpretive Center. And we also do have similar programs in our operating treatment plants and in classrooms. So we, as well as in community settings. So we have our programs tailored for all sorts of settings. Now, I really encourage you not to overlook the seniors in your community. They have the time and the desire to volunteer for the good of the community, and chances are that they'll find something that they want to do to help you meet your goals. These gentlemen here are members of the Philadelphia Senior Environment Corps, which is a group that was set up on its own without our help. It is partly funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, and they actually approached us about 15 years ago and asked if they could help with stream monitoring for water quality. So here's one of their crews that's out. They're out virtually every day of the week, year-round, collecting samples and running field analyses, and that serves as a first look for us at water quality problems that might crop up at one of our outfalls. Now, a real handy way of segmenting your audience is by geography. And we've used watersheds, as shown here on this map of the tributary watersheds in Philadelphia. We've used the boundaries of an upstream municipality. We've used neighborhoods within the city. And we've even used the areas around a project that we were anxious to garner citizen support of within a neighborhood in the city. So all these different geographic areas have proven useful in reaching a targeted audience. One thing that we've found very quickly is that everybody seems to like maps. And this is a map we developed from the city's GIS database, and it's encapsulated in a heavy varnish so that it holds up pretty well to rainfall. And we bring one of these out, and anybody, any group, whether it's children through senior citizens, they love finding their own watersheds on the map and where they live within that watershed, where the streams are or used to be in many cases. It's just been a great success. Now, here's a preview of partnerships. We're going to talk more about these later, but we found that watershed partnerships for each of the 5 small streams still flowing through the city have been very effective in helping us reach out to the community, because the members of the leadership of our watershed partnerships, they know the decision makers, they know the opinion makers in the neighborhoods or within the watersheds, and so they can help us be very effective in reaching this geographic population of a particular watershed. Now, special interest groups are the last of the readily targeted audiences that I'll talk about. Here you see a park advocacy group that's planting trees in one of the city's parks. And so here's these park advocates. Naturally they're formed around the parks scattered around the city, and they're vitally interested in seeing the public educated to our messages. So it's been a very effective audience for us when we need to target messages. And there's a very organized gardening groups in the city. A group that's not so organized but that we can reach through some targeted messages are the car repair do-it-yourselfers, and so on. One of the most important that we've decided to target recently is the group of dog owners in the city. And in a city with a
let's interrupt the poll here. What are WEF members like? Does your life at home affect stormwater? Are you a dog owner, a fertilizer user, a motor oil changer, or do you affect stormwater in other ways? This is the sort of question that Drew says that they often ask at community fairs when they're meeting people to figure out what to talk to them about. So from the looks of it, a lot of dogs and not many people changing their own motor oil. But you guys will like the slides coming up then.
Thanks, Matt. In fact, that poll kind of confirms my observations here in Philadelphia. We have about 500,000 households in the city, And in my neighborhood, just about every other household has a dog. So that comes out to about 250,000 dogs in the city. And I believe that's not a bad guess. So that's a lot of dogs, and unless dog owners are being responsible and picking up after their dogs, you could see how we might be concerned about the impact of dog waste on our surface waters, which are our drinking water supply. So we thought that rather than beating the dog owners over the head about this, we would take a more lighthearted approach. And what we've done this spring is announce a spokes dog contest. We're looking in 2 test neighborhoods of the city. We're looking for dog owners who will nominate their dogs to serve as a quote-unquote spokes dog for a campaign on picking up dog waste after walking your dog. So this in these 2 neighborhoods. Let's go on to the next slide. Oh, and by the way, we used 2 celebrity judges from one of our local TV stations who were there on the right-hand side of that last slide. But in those 2 neighborhoods, comprising maybe a population of roughly 20,000 people, we got 80 dogs more than 80 dogs nominated. And the spokes dogs, one for each of those neighborhoods, will be crowned this Saturday. So you'll have to tune into one of our websites here in Philadelphia and see which 2 dogs were selected. But here's some of the candidates here for our spokes dogs. But what we were able to do is actually bring the targeted audience to us through this contest, this campaign to find the spokes dogs. Now, something we've been doing for some years is getting these bags on board out into the hands of dog owners to encourage them to pick up after their dogs. And so we've built dispensers in the unofficial dog parks across the city. We've gotten these things into pet shops and into veterinarians' offices. So and handed these things out at community fairs. So they're kind of cute. It's about the size of a film canister, the old-fashioned film 35mm film canister, and has the bag, which is biodegradable, is just the right size. So you pick up your dog's waste, tie it off, throw it in the nearest trash can, and that will degrade in the landfill. Just a couple of other smaller special interest groups that you might want to reach in your community. Boaters, we have a number of marinas on both the Delaware River and the Schuylkill River. So we know that marinas can be a problem for us in our water supply. And then, next slide, please. Another more lighthearted way of celebrating our success is our annual fishing festival. So we're celebrating clean streams with this. The cleaner our streams get, the more fish we have returning to the Delaware and Schuylkill rivers. And we have aquatic biologists that actually count the fish every year. They do fish census, and we are finding great success over the last 30 years, particularly the last 25, in species returning to our rivers as water quality improves.